Hey, welcome friends and followers. In this video, I'm really excited to have a sit-down chat with one of my good aviation buddies where we kind of break down and demystify all the things of flight school involved with it. What's the training process like? What's the college experience along with the flight school experience? What does that all look like? This is a 4-part series. We're excited to tell you as much as we can, share our love and our passion with aviation, but also tell you some hard truths about it as well. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button for this video. We just so appreciate all of your continued help and support, and great videos are coming your way. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for being a part of this channel and this YouTube family. All right, let's get into the video. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's currently like 10:30 right now. Yeah. I'm just studying with my good friend Kyle here, who's also an aviation major. Kyle is a senior this year and is soon to be graduating, working on his commercial license right now. Very cool.
I should be getting my chair card in the next couple of weeks when I get back.
Right on, right on. So Kyle and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what flight school is like, and just tell you our experience and the things that we've been through up until this point. So first year, Kyle, what was that like?
One thing of advice I would tell you guys is it's very easy to put aviation to the side and only work on the classes that have due dates and such, because since you have like an assignments and this due at this time, it's very easy to put aviation on the back burner.
Yes.
When
super easy.
You gotta find ways to put it in, because if not, it's just gonna make it much longer to succeed. You gotta find a way to find room for it. Since it is your major, you gotta find room, because when you go to college and you do aviation plus college, it's set to just do college, and you gotta find ways to put it in. And you have to do it on your own time, which is a little harder.
It's true. There's a lot of outside of the classroom kind of studying.
Yeah.
That requires a lot more than what people think. Like,
yeah, a lot more.
We talk to people, to our friends, and they're like, "Oh man, you got to go flying for class." But you know, it's totally fun. It's totally worth it. It's super cool, right? But a lot of people don't realize all the work that goes into just doing that. Like, you have to wake up so much earlier. You have to be at the airport usually by 7 a.m.
Very time consuming.
Very time consuming. You're up in the air. You're exhausted.
Mentally, physically, it's draining.
Emotionally, especially.
Yeah.
It's very emotionally draining at times. We fly usually between 2 and 3 times a week. And if we fly 3 times a week, usually we meet for 2-hour sessions. If it's 2 times a week, usually we meet for 3-hour sessions, just to reach a minimum of like 6 hours a week. It's kind of what we shoot for. Yeah. A lot of outside studying, a lot of prep even before your flight. We have a pre-flight worksheet we have to do. I think the hardest thing for me, Kyle, was like not knowing what to expect, not knowing what I needed to know and what I didn't know.
If we don't really have like at schools and such, you don't really have like tutors and stuff. You have ground lessons with your instructor, but that costs money, so you don't really want to do that much. So really, all your studying and all your learning, it can only really be with you, and maybe if you find other flight kids to do it with. Yeah. Because if not, it's just you have to learn it all by yourself. You can't get a tutor. You can't get stuff. You don't have that.
And I think that kind of leads some area for like misinformation. When I was studying on my own, I'd come back and talk to my flight instructor about the things I was studying, and he'd be like, where did you get that from? Like, what are you talking about?
Also, every flight instructor teaches and does it differently.
Yes, they do. So different teaching style you have to get used to.
100%. So if you learn something from one instructor, you can get to a new instructor, and they could be like, that is not how you do it. Which then makes it hard, because then you have to figure out which way is the proper way of learning. Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, and then it takes more time to figure out how to redo it.
Exactly.
The things that you've been learning. So there's some discrepancies there in the learning and teaching process. What are the other things? Like, you need a car to get to the airport. The airport's like a 10-minute drive. Yeah, a 10-minute drive every day. And then usually after your flight lesson, then sometimes you'll have a class immediately after that they have to go to as well. So by the time it's like 10 a.m., you've already been up for like 3 hours, 4 or 5 hours, right? And then you have your class load. Sometimes classes go till 5 or 6 at night. Sometimes you take science classes which require labs, so now you're getting out of class at like 9
Very
p.m.
time consuming.
It's super time consuming, and then you have to get up the next day and do it all over again.
Yeah.
So long days. Usually I usually study better at night, so I'm up pretty late. Usually like midnight, most nights.
Also,
Sometimes
you have to
one.
deal with the stress of paying for everything.
Yeah, financial stress.
Stop list.
Yes, stop list. Talk about that a little bit.
So the stop list is basically you have to have money in your fund to be able to fly.
Yep.
If you do not have money, you cannot fly. And if you cannot fly, you can't get through your check rides, you can't get your licenses. So if you do not have money, you have to wait to get more money to keep flying, which then, if that's a couple weeks of not flying, you're basically back to square one.
Yeah.
So it's just a frustration of making sure you have enough money, and then basically your entire time at school, you're worrying about all the money you're spending.
Yeah.
Because the money catches up very quickly, and you could be in a lot of debt, but also it's just following your passions, following your love, and if you want to do it, then that's your passion, you want to do it. It's just understanding that the money, there's a lot of money that has to go into aviation. It's like a very, very expensive major.
It is. It's the most expensive major at our university.
Yeah. It's probably close up there with like a doctor too. It's very expensive to do.
Most flight students graduate usually with between 90 to 150, sometimes 200,000 in debt.
It's a lot.
In just 4 years, that's your college years. That's not even,
it's
that's not even working towards your doctorate
it's
or anything.
a lot.
Yeah, so it's a lot of money. That's definitely a huge thing. Time commitment, emotional commitment. It's aviation is a big commitment. It takes a lot. What about the different types of training? So we're working for our private pilot's license. That's the first thing we do. Then we do we do our private. Then we work towards our instrument rating. And then after we've completed that, we then do our commercial. How long do each one of those take, and how are they like different or similar in ways?
So roughly each one usually takes around a year. But again, go your speed. Things happen, like I said, with money, family stuff. Go your speed. This is not a set base. Things happen, life happens. So don't feel discouraged. Don't feel like you're behind. Everyone goes their own pace. It's your life. Go your way. But your private pilots, you're basically learning really the bare minimum. You're learning how to basically fly the aircraft safely, but also have the knowledge to make sure you can fly it and understand.
Not get yourself killed.
Exactly.
And know the fundamentals, the rules, how to talk to ATC.
Just private is just getting your foot in the door and understanding enough to get the basics.
Yeah. It's a license to learn.
It's a license to learn, exactly. And then instrument is basically learning how to fly a plane without looking outside. Basically, most of instrument, you don't look outside. Yeah. You have your hood on and you're just looking at your instruments, and you need, you could be basically instrument allows you to fly into clouds. It also makes you a better pilot because it makes you more aware of how your plane works and just being more familiar with your instruments and just being safer. Also, if weather conditions get bad or worse, it allows you to be able to do approaches, which then allows you to get into and land safely without looking outside, which can be very crucial if, let's say, you're flying to an airport and you have to land there because you run out of gas, and you can't go visual. By using an approach, you're allowed to get in safely without visuals. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's essentially you can fly in more visibility restricting weather, and you can fly through rain more easily. You can fly through rain as a private pilot with VFR.
It makes you a safer pilot.
It makes you a much safer pilot. There's a whole lot. There's a whole level of proficiency and accuracy that you have to develop.
Any of you guys that decide to do flying to just own a plane and fly for fun, I would highly recommend you just getting your private instrument, just to make it so you actually not only feel more comfortable in the aircraft, but also you understand more, you're safer, and you kind of have a bigger idea of how everything works, so you don't die.
That's always a big one. That's always a good one.
No, because there are many times where people go into stuff that if you did a little more knowledge and did a little more studying, you'd realize it's not smart to fly into that weather. It's just not smart to fly, to do certain stuff like currency versus proficiency.
Yeah.
And understanding that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not dying is always a good thing.
Yeah.
It's always a helpful thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you would recommend that somebody who's interested in flying and working towards getting their pilot's license will get their private pilot's license and then pursue their instrument ratings.
Yes. You don't need your private. You can use your multi, but like your private and instrument is something like I would recommend anyone that just wants to fly for fun, get your instrument.
Yeah.
It makes you a safer pilot. Like you're doing an instrument.
Yeah.
It makes you a better pilot.
It makes you a way better pilot.
Makes you way better.
I will say it's a whole new level of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely harder than private.
Mm-hmm.
At least I think, but again, you can fly, you know how to fly the airplane better.
Yeah.
So you're not learning everything for the first time all over
Yeah.
again. You're just getting better. Yeah. It's and there is more knowledge. Like you have to learn how to read charts and how to use VORs, navigation systems, a whole lot better. So yeah, overall, I think once you get your instrument rating, you kind of uncovered the depth, or I wouldn't say the depth, but a larger breadth of what aviation offers you.
Also, like instrument, like IFR flight plans are a lot safer.
Yeah.
Because with IFR flight plans, it's less on your job to make yourself safe versus it's other people's jobs. Yeah, it's other person's jobs to keep you safe. So they can tell you to, if they notice that there's bad weather, they can divert you to a certain heading, to certain things. So it makes it so less stress on the flight is yours. You just have to follow what they tell you.
Yeah.
But it makes the flight a lot safer because you have someone in your corner that guides you the entire way, pretty much holds your hand. But there's a lot of cons with it too, is you can't mess up. You can't change your altitude unless asking. You have to basically tell them if you're doing anything different versus if you do a VFR flight plan, you have a lot of freedom. If you want to go from 7,000 to 8,000, you don't have to tell anyone, you just do it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more freedom with it, but then also with an IFR flight plan is a lot more safer.
Yeah.